Okay, let's get started. First, I want to thank everybody for joining. I know you're all muted, but please don't let that stop you from typing text in the little chat window, and I'll definitely look over from time to time and try to answer any questions that you have. So this is KryptoTrak software, and it's what we're doing here today is we're going to use this software for some analyses of a couple of blockchain projects. And that's what this software was intended to do. It's intended to provide support for some serious analysis of blockchain and cryptocurrency projects, among other things. We won't go into too much detail, but you can see there's coins and tokens, there's mining, there's masternodes, there's compliance, there's some exchanges and trading information, and there's also skills and experience. So the software itself can do a lot of different things, but what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this project analysis, which are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 entities, if you will, or tables in the database, if you will. And this module, this project analysis module, is what we use to sort of make sense of some of these projects that come out. Any project that comes out these days is of sufficient complexity to warrant some serious analysis. And so that's what this software is designed to do, and we're going to use it. So right now I'm looking at a list of what I call my watch list. So that's a simple pinned list of projects that I'm focused on right now. These two that I'm focused on right now are Synapse Ai and Decentralized Machine Learning. From the names, I think you could probably derive the fact that these projects, these cryptocurrency ICO projects, are trying to tackle elements of artificial intelligence, more specifically machine learning, in fact. In fact, even though this is called Synapse AI, I would venture to say that you could also say that this was focused on, machine learning, more so than just the broad category of artificial intelligence. Now, on the podcast, ICO 41, I went into some detail about what machine learning is. We really won't go into that kind of detail. Now we're going to dive right into these projects, but machine learning is very simply the application of an algorithm against a large set of data to generate very interesting, predictive analysis. And humans don't do it as well as machines do, so hence the term machine learning. Also, you can train machines to do it, hence the term learning. So that's what machine learning is. That's part of artificial intelligence, and it's a huge, huge topic right now. Let's have a look at some of these projects. So Synapse AI is the first one we'll dive into. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. The way this software works is that there's types of projects. For instance, there's ICOs, there's classic coins, there's privates, there's hybrids. Classic coin. Oh, yeah, okay. Raj has a question. Classic coin, yeah, that's like Bitcoin or Ravencoin. There was never a sale. There was never like a token sale. No one ever bought initially and ever really bought Bitcoin. It was just mined. So that's the release of a very classic coin. There's a number of them out there, by the way, even now being released in a certain way. They're not really being sold. You mine them for the most part. Then they make their way to an exchange, and then you can trade them. But an ICO is a different animal. An ICO is one that is sold. The tokens are actually sold for fiat currency or another cryptocurrency like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Private is a private blockchain, entirely not open to the world at all. It's sort of maybe a permissioned blockchain, or there's no ICO involved. It's just private. It's a private, maybe it's a big company doing their own private thing. There's no visibility from the outside world. Private, of course, would be you using this software to manage your own private or some private project that you had knowledge of. And hybrid is interesting. I included the hybrid category because there are some that are sort of hybrid in that way. One that comes to mind just off the cuff is Simply Vital Health. Now, it's true that they had an ICO, but the nature of their actual platform is hybrid in the sense that it's a permissioned blockchain, but it has some public components to it. So anyway, that's what a hybrid might be. Most of what I've been looking at over the last year has been ICOs. So these two are certainly ICOs. Definitely Synapse AI is an ICO. put it on the watch list, just a simple little checkbox. The ICO status, it's ended. It's definitely ended. They're done. There were a series of, you'll see as we go down further down below, there was a series of phases. The primary market disruption is I would say, machine learning. We want to be a little more specific than just artificial intelligence, because machine learning has a different sort of market capitalization. It's smaller. It's a smaller part of AI, even though it's AI. We're going to call this machine learning in terms of the disruption. The team leader is Dan Gailey. We'll go into his details in a moment. And then there's this T-score. The T-score is a sort of average score of all the teams that we're tracking in this software. So for this project. So the average score, we'll look at those teams. The average score of the teams that we're tracking is 8, and it's out of 10. So what's the description? The description is basically this. Essentially, people for the last at least 10 years or more have been willfully exchanging their data, tremendous amounts of it, especially with the advent of mobile technology, have been willfully sharing their data with some pretty big companies. And in exchange for all that data, they get to use the platform. So obviously, Facebook comes to mind, Amazon comes to mind, Google comes to mind. And Facebook is maybe the most extreme example, because people just give up tremendous amounts of details about their preferences and their own personal lives that just all go into data. And machine learning can derive tremendous benefit and actual money, value, revenue by parsing that data. And the problem, as it's identified by Synapse Ai, is that these companies, there are a few of them, not a tremendous amount of them, they're very, very large, they have a great deal of data, and that data is sort of locked up in those companies. Smaller companies don't have access to that data or the algorithms that are created to make sense and to derive benefit from that data. The other set of actors that are involved in this play is are the people who are willfully giving up their data. Now, yes, they are getting to use Facebook, they're getting to use Google, but the way Synapse Ai sees it, it's pretty one-sided. And so what they would like to see is, as they say, a fair and balanced set of intelligence available to everybody equally. And they would like to see everyone getting rewards. So that would be the people who are submitting their data using that platform, whatever platform it is, should somehow be rewarded for offering up that data directly, monetarily. And so, like many blockchain projects, Synapse has created a SYN token, SYN token, a utility token that allows people to participate in this marketplace that they're creating. And the marketplace, of course, consists of algorithms that smaller companies could actually potentially have access to. And the data that is offered up by those people has value, and thus the actors, the end users who are offering up the data, will also be rewarded. So they'll be rewarded. Developers will be rewarded. They'll be incentivized to create those algorithms. And then, of course, the small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and potentially someday large businesses that use the system will be rewarded by the actual results of the algorithms applied against the data. And so that's their idea, is to create such a marketplace. Now, their sale started all the way back in October, almost a year ago, and they had a series of events that facilitated that sale. I have a note here really quickly that the wallet was released fairly recently, and this wallet was kind of a big deal. So it was a big deal because it's not your typical wallet. It's got an explorer, it's got a browser. They call it a point of entry to participate inside that network. And they have a lot of information. They're saying that they're going to basically continue to develop a suite of tools like these wallets. So I'm going to go ahead and post that there right now. That's a note that I put in. And, on this platform, obviously, you can just add as many notes as you like, so you can even attach documents if you want to. So let's take a look at some of these other sections of the form. So just to show you really quickly, we've got the basics and the dates like we talked about. We've got the people involved. We've got compliance, we've got analysis. We've got all the different community interactions. If it's relevant, we have public token addresses. If that somehow helps, you've got a token address. It might be good for reference. I'll show you how that works. So let's look at the people. So if we look at this, we have a couple of teams here. So we've got the core team for this ICO, and we've got an advisory team. Now, the core team has a score of 7, and the advisory team has a score of 9. And we can look at that, and I can just explain to you why I would see it that way, since I'm I'm the analyst, as you can see, and I scored this. So basically what we've got here, we've got Dan Gailey. And if you take a look at Dan Gailey, he's definitely an interesting individual, and he has a pretty strong background. So you can go right to LinkedIn and you can just check, his profile, and you can see some of his background and articles. And when you look at his articles and you read his point of view, and you see kind of the people that he's connected to, the very fact that back in January of 2017. This is almost 2 years ago. He started a company called Radbots, which is basically a distribution of bots. And so basically what he's doing with this was that he was one of the earlier people to really focus on chatbots and programming. That's a little form of sort of artificial intelligence right there. So you can see where he started to get these ideas, and then before that, it was, lots of technical consulting for years up in San Francisco, pretty much in Silicon Valley. So, we could go further into detail, but he's got some connections. He's from Silicon Valley, and he's got a pretty good team there, and then if you look at some of these, some of the team members, you can see that, you've got a guy like Travis Herrick, who's a blockchain developer. You've got a full stack developer, and it's important to have full stack developers as well as blockchain developers when you're going to develop an entire ecosystem. He's got a designer. So, I feel like this is a pretty strong team in the sense that he's got a lead blockchain developer. So you've got a couple of blockchain developers, you've got a full stack developer, and you've got a designer. It's a pretty well-rounded team. You've got a visionary. If you read some of his stuff, you'll see it is pretty visionary. You got a pretty well-rounded team there. Now, I give them a 10. I would give them a 7, only because basically what you don't have is a huge amount of communications, and just also I'm very conservative with my naming. I don't really give too many scores that are much above 8 ever anyway. But basically, what you don't have is you don't have sort of like senior people that have led companies for 20, 25 years. So I'm not going to push it up that far, but this is a good, solid, strong team for a core team. Okay, so I'm going to go back, head back, and look at the second team, which is the advisory team. And here you'll see that on this team, they're a 9, and that's as an advisory team. That's really important to understand that. And of course, the reason why you want to see this is like you really have to look really carefully at who these people are, to get a sense of what they're capable of doing, what they've done in their lives. And the fact that these, there's people on this team that are, from Stanford, many years, PhDs. You really, as an advisory team, this is a very, very, very strong team. You look at Tyler Nalon, fascinating individual. Rebecca Valentine with the Cardano project. You've just got some really strong advisors here. So, that's sort of how we gauge that. in terms of the team. Of course, you can drill in, you can drill in, you can look at any of these teams in more detail if you so desire, if you're using this platform, obviously. So that's the teams, and that's how we get an overall T-score of 8, because we got 9 and a 7. So it's pretty strong scores. Compliance, we have something really important with respect to transparency. So transparency is just how forthright they are as to who they are. And if you think back to last year, some of the ridiculous scams that are out there that I can't even believe that people fell for, you find all the way down to anonymous. Like I saw one last year, I mentioned on the ICO 41 podcast, where there was one white paper where they said, well, we can't divulge who we are, because how else would we be able to guard your privacy if we don't guard our own privacy? This is like ludicrous. The whole thing was absurd. And they turned out to be a scam, of course. So we really want to go here from anonymous, low, neutral, and extreme. And extreme is, to me, is just somebody who, they're available. You can contact them directly. You can chat with them and they will respond in Telegram or Discord. They're all over the place in terms of writing and out there and speaking. I mean, that's what I call extreme transparency. And that's who these people are. I mean, so they get an extreme here. KYC, yes or no? Did they use KYC when they did their sale? I don't have a lot of details about this aspect of it, but you can see here that you can track that if you need to. Accredited investor only, you can look at that. There's a FINMA class. This is not a European project, so I don't think it's been classified by FINMA. If you're not familiar with that, there's asset, utility, and payment tokens that FINMA classes. That's the Swiss token classification. It's sort of the Swiss version of the SEC in a certain way, and they came out and classified tokens. I wish the SEC would do something like that. I'm not sure how this would be. Synapse Ai themselves calls it a utility token. Not completely sure what they would come up with. They probably would go with utility token, but it's interesting. There is a payment token class, and clearly this will be used for payment. So payment of services, payment for algorithms. So it's hard to say what they would say on that one. We do have the investment of money kind of concept. And if you look back it's clearly an investment of money, because that's clearly what the sale was. People were giving their Ethereum, and that's definitely considered an investment of money. In a common enterprise, it's, I would say, completely dependent, because just you saw there, the wallet was introduced by them. We're investors. We didn't develop that wallet. So if they stopped developing the wallet, we would be done, right? What would we do, right? Now that it's out there, maybe it's a little bit, maybe you could say somewhat dependent. But anyway, I would say that for the future of the entire network, that is completely dependent. Expectation of profit's a good one. In this case, I would actually say it was avoided. And if you know anything about the Howey test, by the way, I'm not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice by any means, but the idea is that there's 3 prongs. So there's these 3 prongs, and if you have all 3 prongs very heavily hit like that, it's pretty much considered a security, probably by the SEC, and could be enforced as such, which means if you are a security by the SEC, then it means that you had better state that and file yourself with them as a security. Nobody's done that. Nobody. What they've done is they've filed exemptions, and we can show that in another, when we finally come up to one that has done that, I'll show that to you on another one of these webinars. But yeah, no, in this case, it's not loudly stated that there's an expectation of profit. It wasn't even subtly stated, as far as I could tell. In fact, it's not even their focus at all. Their profit and your profit as an investor, as a token holder, is not mentioned. What's mentioned is that if you use the network, you could get rewarded. But that's not the same thing as saying that if you buy this token, it will go up in price and you'll be able to make money. They never said that. I would say that they avoided that. In fact, I would actually say that there was no expectation whatsoever. But to be able to say that, it would be sort of like you'd have to see people saying over and over again, no, this will never become anything. And you don't see that very often. So I'm just going to go with avoided. So I'll leave that up to the lawyers in the audience to decide whether or not this would be, considered a security. But that's how this Howie thing works. I'm going to go ahead and save that. There were no compliant actions that I could find. So there's no Edgar filings or anything like that. You can create them. We just won't do it this time because I couldn't find any. There weren't any. You can put little notes in here if you are a lawyer and you're communicating with each other. I mean, I could put them in myself, but I'm just saying that it's a little bit more useful if you're somebody who's an actual attorney and they can really, communicate to the rest of the team of analysis assists that are using this software what that would be. That's kind of how this is designed to be used, by the way. So that's the compliance for these folks. A lot of analysis here. We don't have to go through all of it. We don't have time to go through all of it. But you can see here they got a website. You can visit it very quickly and easily and see what it's all about. And there's right there's Dan Gailey giving a talk. So that's sort of at a summit, at an AI summit. So it's just sort of interesting. And then typical website. I've got their roadmap. We'll talk about that in a moment. Bitcoin Talk, interesting one here. Bitcoin Talk. It was announced all the way back in October of 2017, which is when it all started, more or less, this sort of the announcement and the idea. And but as Bitcoin Talk goes, and we'll see this in the next one we look at, this is a pretty thin thread in terms of it came out, and there was a little bit of questions, from some senior members and stuff like that, and so. Says it's a replacement thread, so updated so we still had a presence on here. I just get the sense that this was a replacement of another thread, but if this is October 27th, we haven't had much history. So for whatever reason, this is not the sort of channel, and you can see here in November, they're saying, hey, the site's been frozen for a long time, what's going on? So they got off to a pretty slow start, I guess I could say. And then if you continue here, you don't really get much interaction here from Synapse Ai. So there's no real answers here, all right? So they're obviously using another channel. So we'll go look at some other ones. But all the way back in here, it's August, and somebody's complaining about sort of a bounty issue or something like that. But I think it's pretty clear that this has not been used as a channel, really. Now, GitHub, on the other hand, is something we can look at that's very relevant because, look, 7 days ago, we've got binary releases of the actual wallet. So here, yourself, anyone, can come here and literally download, the wallet itself and install it like I did. I did that a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago, on a Mac, and I went ahead and the CEO Dan was able to make sure that I got some tokens and get started on that. But here you see, this is the Synapse org, and these are the repositories that they have. They've got the token contract. They've got sort of an introduction to Solidity, which is interesting. That's sort of all the way back in December. So sort of showing, Stan Gailey showing how Solidity could be used. And these are the actual contracts for the ICO and for the pre-sale. The most important thing, of course, is the wallets. The releases here. These releases is pretty important in terms of the wallet. And you got a Windows. So this wasn't even here just a while ago. This wasn't here when I first downloaded the Mac version, so now I got a Windows version, so it's excellent. So you can get started that way. You've got their blog. Reddit is another channel. Reddit's a channel that I would say is a little more preferred by this project because here you didn't see that on Bitcoin Talk. You didn't see the announcement of the wallet. So they're sort of using Reddit a little bit more. And, if you look at these, there's some pretty good, I would say that there's some pretty good points some people make, just comments, they're saying, why was there so much advance, so unprepared, and so forth. And then we've got responses. So, they're explaining we waited to get the wallets in the hands of as many people as possible. And then there's a subreddit where he explains, here, and they have 500,000 users participating in the network. So, it's some good information here on Reddit. So that's obviously the best channel. I don't know if I was an analyst, I might, just maybe remove this if there was other people using this system, because this is kind of not really useful. But anyway, either way, we've got links to the white paper, and we can take a quick look at that. We can take a quick look at that white paper. And this is the initial 22-page white paper that was, created first, all right? And then that was all the way back in April, all right? And that's just, when the first probably phase of the token sale, but after the pre-sale. And what you've got here is, you've got some pretty well written sort of, not so much details in terms of technology, but it does talk about sort of a high-level view of how agents will kind of work, what an agent is, what they could do, what they will do, and what models would do, what services are, what data pools are. There's not a great deal of actual diagramming here or technical kind of information. But it does give you a sense of what they have in mind. So this was sort of a very high level. We've got, some launch phases here in terms of, what's going to come first: agents, then data, then models, then services. Not sure where the wallet fits in with that. But in any case, maybe this is like kind of after the wallet. But then, they talk about some of the different ways that the data travels, and then there's a bit of a roadmap. So here's the tiers I was talking about. There was a pre-sale, then there was tier 1, tier 3 ending in June. So you can see that here was 9 months, more or less, to get through the tiers. And then this is sort of, it's not very detailed. It's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Phase 1 being spring. But the very fact that, maybe phase 1 was, sort of the release of the actual token, as well as the website. Phase 2 could have been the wallet. Phase 3 must be some of those agents and models and services we talk about. It doesn't have a lot of details in terms of that, but it does talk about how the token auction mechanics and so forth are going to be done. And then if you go back to the site, you'll see there's something called a yellow paper. So the yellow paper is something that was created in response to the white paper, based on what information I heard, where this is the technical version. So people were saying, well, how about some technical version? And here you have that sort of similar diagram type thing. The only thing that I have about this is that, some of the items here that were mentioned don't really exist. So you've got M and you've got services. You don't really have an M up here and things like that. But nevertheless, though, this is more technical, and it does show a little bit more detail. It's a little bit thin, but it does show more detail, and it does explain, a little bit more about some of the math behind what they're thinking and the economics. So that's what the yellow paper is. And we've got a Telegram channel, we've got Twitter, and we've got Facebook. So, this is sort of the community right here, and this is how they're interacting with it. So when you see a lot of robust links and you go and visit these places and you see, like in this case, there's 32,000 people in the Telegram channel, you know that you've got a pretty solid community. So I'm going to look at some of the milestones. So we talked about these milestones. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 completed in June. We got the pre-sale. And, I don't have a lot of information I've got the 4 phases, but it would require a little bit more interaction with the team to find out precisely what, precisely what is happening next, what exact thing is next. Here we have findings, and basically this is a list of sort of the major news, for the most part. There's different kinds of findings you can have. You can have, findings that are like severe compliance related issues or like a major issue or something like that. But these are just news. And so really what it is you've got, there was an announcement back in February that the tier 2 public sales started after raising 7 million in private sales. So here's where we got that information, and there's a link here. It was a PR web link. So here's where we got that information. They've raised at least $7 million, right? And then here on the 20th of July, there was a Telegram chat announcing the wallet versions that were happening. I don't think Windows was then yet. And then 500,000 users, and it's just sort of a description, And then we can open up any of these and just go right to the link. So those are the findings for this particular analysis. I'm going to go ahead and crack open that analysis real quick. So there's also one or more analyses that can happen. There's not a great deal of information in here, but I did talk about the white paper. There's different kinds of white paper different kinds of analyses. There's business viability analyses and there's white paper analysis. So in this particular case, I think I did a better business viability analysis on DCL, or Decentralized Machine Learning, DML, sorry. Oh, okay. All right, so hold up. Jose is saying, this has to be filled out sort of by the user of the system. So this business viability, you would actually need to fill it out. So for instance, if you want to know what market it is, there's artificial intelligence, but there's machine learning. It's a little more specific. I don't think you could say that this Synapse AI is going to disrupt all of artificial intelligence. It's just such an enormous thing. I'm going to go straight to machine learning in this case. Vertical market cap. Yeah, so you put this in, you go like 300 million or whatever you want to put in there. Whoops. Say 300 million. Sorry. Trying to do two things at once here. 30 million, whatever it is. And then you want to put the potential penetration in there. So if it's 0.01, right, that's the penetration of that market. And then, of course, that would give you the potential market for this company, maybe. That's kind of the idea, is what it's supposed to be. And then you want to put in some business viability comments, And we're running out of time. I really want to give the same amount of time to both projects. So I can't really, I don't want to go too deep into this. But yeah, you would type in your business viability comments, and that's the idea. The idea is that you're supposed to put this information in here, and then what, of course, you can do, if you saw back there at the dashboards and graphs and things, you can actually look at these visually in terms of vertical market cap and things like that. Here is the white paper analysis. I read it. The total page is 35. That's the two together. Are 35 pages, the yellow paper and the white paper. I found that it was thin and error-prone, and these are just ways to choose, whether it was readable, unreadable, plausible, implausible. I should probably say it was certainly readable. So it was readable, it was thin, and it was error-prone. When I say error-prone, what I meant was that some of the diagrams and labels didn't match, like references to them didn't match. But anyway, I would say it was certainly readable. But you can see what you can do here. You can sort of, and that of course allows you to do searches on show me all the ones that are thin and readable, or thin or robust and readable, or whatever. So here's sort of a detailed analysis here. And I don't have time to go too far into this. I will just say that you've got your white paper, you got your yellow paper. The white paper is kind of high level. The yellow paper is a little much more technical. Okay, and so lots of information here. This will certainly make it onto a blog somewhere, I suppose. But this is where I am at with this particular one. And I have some very specific examples here. If we had a little bit more time, I should mention that in the near future, you're going to be able to subscribe to these analyses. So you're going to really kind of, if you wanted to, you'll be able to get this information if you were interested in getting it, just by sort of subscribing. So, all right. So that's Synapse AI as we have it sort of laid out here in this in this actual software. That's a project analyses. There could be any number of these underneath a given project. This was mine. If we had other analysts, and we do have other analysts in this that work with me, but this one analysis is by me, and there might be others by other people. All right, let me just go now. Let's switch over. So, by the way, here's some of those charts I was talking about. So here you can go by T-score, 6 and 8. You can do it by amount raised. Top 10 projects by hard cap. These charts only work against whatever's on the left. So if I had a full list of projects here, I would see different data if I just switched the chart. So let's move over to decentralized machine learning. Go ahead and decentralize machine learning. This is a company that has a very, very similar vision to Synapse Ai. And the idea here, of course, as you can see, it's a protocol. They call it a protocol, and it's designed to reach untapped private data, right? And that's, of course, referencing the data on mobile devices for the most part. And the idea, of course, is that the algorithm, in this particular case, the algorithms will be run on the devices without extracting data from the devices. So the data is going to stay on the devices. Synapse Ai, if you read the white paper, you see that it sounds like it's going to be taken or copied off to the IPFS and then done in aggregate there. So it says that only the machine learning result will be aggregated with outcomes generated from other devices. So that's kind of interesting. It's very interesting from a mathematical standpoint, I guess, and I'm not a mathematician, but I'm just trying to get my mind around the fact that you're going to have an outcome for a small set of data. Then you're going to somehow combine the outcome from other sets of data, which may be larger or smaller. So that is going to be kind of a technical challenge, right? It's going to be interesting. Because the data, let's be clear, the data will not be leaving the device. It'll be remaining on the device, and the only thing that will leave the device is the results of the algorithm that is the app running on the device. And those results will be aggregated somehow. So I'm not a machine learning expert, but I think it would be very interesting for people to, sort of go to the ICO website, whatever, go anywhere you can and post some questions about that and thoughts about that. I think that's kind of an interesting concept. Those of you that are machine learning experts could weigh in on that. This one was a very short token sale. It went from 416 to 422, and they basically raised about $10 million. They had a hard cap of 17.9. They had a soft cap of 1.5. They sold it at about 15 cents. Now, that's a little bit of an issue with this particular sale in the sense that the current price is very, very low compared to what it was when they sold it. So you've got some frustrated investors, and we'll go into that in a few minutes. Let's look at Mr. Kwok. So Michael Kwok is he's the leader of the team, and he's from Hong Kong, and he's got some pretty good. Pretty serious background here. He's publishing. He's writing articles. He's got 1,100 followers. He's the project lead on this. Now it's been 1 year and 7 months. But before that, he spent 3 years with and he co-founded CapHeart, which essentially was a mobile app for healthcare. So it's, interesting. I spent some time, successful company running that. You can click here and you can see various things that's been going on there. He was also a marketing director. So they have this project does have some background with respect to creating companies and things like that. But I wouldn't say that. I think this person is. I think Mr. Kwok is very technical, and I think that. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of experience with maybe communications, and that's kind of borne out in the way that they're communicating, the communicating style, I guess, communication style that you could see. But anyway, you get a sense. This is sort of where the geographic location of the team resides. Okay, let's go down to the people. Over here, what we've got is we got a core team and we've got an advisory team. So here we got the core team, and again, we'll go ahead and give them a 7 here. And what we've got is we've got a blockchain developer, we've got a front-end developer, and we've got a back-end developer. We've also got another blockchain developer. So we're very heavy on the core team. Here we've got a machine learning person, machine learning engineer. So we're pretty good core team in terms of technology. What you don't have on the core team is a great deal of business. I mean, you've got Michael Kwok, definitely. These are the technical individuals, but you don't have a great deal of sort of communications and marketing expertise, really, it looks like, as much as some project that I've seen. So we're going in with about a 7 here. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to take a look at another team. We'll look at the advisory team. And for the advisory team, we've got business advisors, and we can we can take a look at this. They have a sort of a large team, in terms of advisory. And this is what I guess you could call the team leader, and it's interesting. I don't know why that's suddenly unavailable. It was available just recently, so that's interesting, actually. That is quite interesting. Let's see if we got some other ones here. Okay, let's see if we've got all right, Byron. All right, I don't have the LinkedIn profile for Eric Byron placed in here yet, so why don't I get that? And of course, it's very difficult to find out which one it is, right? But I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit too, I don't think we have the time for that kind of thing. Hard to say. Hong Kong? Pretty good guess. 433 token. There it is. Decentralized machine learning. Bingo. Not bad. Not bad. So I guess you could say that that this person is probably sort of a professional. He's advising on a few different tokens. So he's a freelance IT consultant, and he works with token sales. So he's a strategic advisor, chief strategy officer, right there in Hong Kong. So it's hard to. I can't really pass judgment on this, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that this would cause me to particularly raise the team score any. And in fact, if anything, I almost would say that I would almost want the fact that this LinkedIn is no longer available when it was, I would almost bring this down to a 5 in terms of that. But anyway, it's just me, just me using the system. So this is not to be construed as legal or financial advice. All right. So, questions? Oh, okay. Right. So, yeah. So this system is designed pretty much to. I've got Lila. She's asking if there's any restrictions, I guess you could say, in terms of being able to store this kind of data. Actually, depends. It largely depends on your interpretation of GDPR, I would say. And that also depends if the people are from Europe or not and things like that. But yeah, I mean, if you're using this system, you're personally using this system, and you're putting public information in it, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't tell you one way or another, but it would seem to me that if the information was public, that you would probably be able to store it. However, I will say that my understanding of GDPR is such that if anyone ever asks you to take it away, you must delete it and remove it. And of course we can. And the way to do that would be to literally remove the person from your system. And I can do that. So let's just say Pascal, for instance. Let's just say Pascal wrote to us and said, I want you out of my system. I would say, okay. And I would do that. And I would just delete that. And Pascal would now be out of the system. So it's just that simple. So yeah, in terms of that, I think I agree. This is, by the way, this is a customer relationship management system. So this system can be used for a lot more than just project analysis. It has a lot to do with sales and service and settings and marketing, all kinds of things like that. But it is a CRM, and it should be construed and used like a CRM. So the same question that you would have of me with my ability to put people in the information, it would be the same question for any CRM. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I would be so shocked if customer relationship management systems all had to be thrown out because of GDPR. I don't think it really works that way. But anyway, this is all public information. I don't actually know any of these people personally, other than the fact that I've chatted with some of them on Telegram. But yeah, you can. This if you were to use this system, this is a system that you put information in, and I suppose you would be bound by any privacy issues. This system isn't public per se. I log into this system, and I use this software privately, which you would too if you decide to use this for your own analyses, or also if you subscribe to it. Okay, so yeah, back to this. I'm sorry about that. Listen, I appreciate. No problem. I appreciate the questions. I really do. I'm happy to answer whatever I can. Compliance. Primary jurisdiction for this particular DML project is Singapore. I would say the transparency factor is extreme. You know who everybody is. Although that was a little strange about I'm not gonna say. It doesn't matter whether or not a LinkedIn profile disappears or not. I'm not gonna. I still consider them to be very upfront, very extreme. U.S. accredited only. I couldn't find any evidence of it just being U.S. accredited. I actually think that it's a moot point because it's not about accredited investors. They just flat out didn't allow anyone from Singapore, United States, China, or Hong Kong, which is a little bit ironic, isn't it? But the jurisdiction is Singapore because that's where they filed, and we'll see that in a minute. But they're not. It's not open to the citizens of Singapore, United States, China, or Hong Kong because of the laws there, and I get that. So, there's really no point in even mentioning the Howey test in a way, because unless it can be proved that, and they did do KYC and they did do AML, so. They're kind of off the hook. If the SEC, in my opinion, this is my opinion, not legal advice. If the SEC came after this company and they showed them that they did KYC and AML, and yet there was some American that was waving these tokens around and said, I bought these from these people, and I'm an American, and it was proven or whatever that American got those tokens from them by using falsified KYC and AML documents, then I doubt that they'd have much to worry about. So the very fact that they just said it's not open, period, end of story, we're not selling it to you, I think that's safe enough so you can kind of ignore this whole Howey thing. I don't think they would really apply to them. This is a compliant action, and all this really is this is good to know. This is not much more than basically a business filing organization with ACRA in Singapore. And you can actually go there to the URL and you can look and you can find them. The reason for compliant actions and tracking that is because you want to know who you're working with. If you're going to join this project one way or another, whether you're going to buy some of their tokens or whether you're going to work for them or whatever, it's just nice to know that they've filed. They're a legitimate company. This goes toward that transparency. That's what these compliant actions are just good to see. They're good to have around. Now, this company didn't have to file any kind of Edgar filing with the United States because they are not, first of all, not even in the jurisdiction of America, United States of America. And they're not even opening the sale to anybody from the United States. So their filings are different. Their filings are business filings. And if they need to file something financially about the sale in Singapore, I don't know about that yet. And of course, if they did, though, I would like to track it down, and I would just click here, and I would add a filing, and it could be any number of filings, All right, so here is, okay, yeah. So, yeah, sure, I can. Oh yeah, sure. Jan is asking if I can. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and add one. I'm going to kind of make stuff up, everybody, guys. So yeah, so basically what's cool about, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Do I have I don't think I have Filecoin in this instance. Filecoin did a nice filing. Let me show you how this could go. So, I think we have time for this. I mean, I hope, does anybody mind? Like, yeah, I'm going to spend 4 minutes showing you how I would research and do a filing. Okay, go for it? All right, good. Thank you. All right, I'm going to do that. So real quick, let's just go to projects real quick, and I'm just going to do something really quick here, and I'm just going to basically just do Filecoin. Now, needless to say, one of the huge ones, I happen to know that they're a company called Protocol Labs, and I don't think I have Protocol Labs in here, but let me see if I do. Maybe I do. I have Protocol Labs in here? I do not. So let me just do Protocol Labs real quick. So, only because, we're going to use that. In fact, I'm going to copy that because that's going to help us in a minute. All right. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff I can put in here, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in here Protocol Labs, Edgar filing. I believe that's a good one. And we might go right to it if we're lucky enough. Let's just see how Google does with that. But bam, what is it? Okay, what is it? Is it Protocol Labs? It is. All right, look. So this is filing type D, okay, which is probably a 506. Let me look at all the. All right, so here's how you do this. So you go to Edgar, and you look at the type of filing. All right, so this is Reg D, and this is 6C in the Reg D. Okay, so that's notice of exempt offering. All right, now there's several of these. This is back in 2017. All right, so you go to that. You go filing this Reg D. And there's a few of them. We'll just grab the first 6C. All right, and you can use this document, the HTML, and you get all the data. So you see here, this is what a Reg D filing looks like. Okay, and you've got the people who filed it and so forth, and you've got decline to disclose rule 506C. This is what this is. It's a 506C, Reg D 506C. And there is $51 million. So basically $51 million. I'll copy that. And it's rule 506C. So remember that. 506C, $51 million. It's basically saying they sold $51 million worth of exempted non-securities. Exempt from the security laws. That's what this is. This is an exemption. This is exempt offering of securities. We're exempt. We're exempt is what they're saying. And they're saying they're exempt. By the way, if you want to know why they're exempt, they're saying their sale and issuance to receive Filecoin tokens in the future via a SAFT, Simple Agreement of Future Tokens. So that's the filing. So it's good to keep track of that, right? So you just go right down here. You go to compliance, and you just click plus. And you've got, the date. Oh, shoot, I didn't get the date. I think it was something like, I'm just going to put it in 5/5/2017. I think it was in May. Jurisdiction, United States, right? These things come up. Compliance or Security Exchange Commission, SEC. Oh, we should have it in there. Let me see if we got it. Nope. I have to add it. Yeah, that's right. I don't. This is not the instance that I have all the. So I'm going to say S. I'm just going to call it SEC. I'm just going to make it really simple for now. Of course, you would do probably a better job. You would say Securities and Exchange Commission and all that. You only have to do that once, obviously. It's a filing. The filing is 506C. I got a URL here. Might as well grab it. There it is, right there. It's good to have. Type other, right? And basically I could type that note, but I'm just going to write SAFT here. But just remember, I could copy and paste that note, right? And in fact, that's what I would do here, SAFT. And then SAFT, yes or no, yes. And total offering amount, I think I have that pasted. Oh, no, I didn't. I'll go back and I'll paste that. There's right there. That's the amount. That's the total offering. Total amount sold. So remaining to be sold is 0. So just kind of remember that. That much. There was no minimum investment, I don't believe. Actually, I think the minimum investment was $500. I don't know if you noticed that. I think it was $500. Total remaining to be sold is 0. A number of investors in this filing. That's kind of good stuff to have. I mean, you could do some really cool math with that. I'm going to go right back there and find out how many people. 154 people invested $51 million. Kind of interesting, isn't it? To see that kind of stuff. I mean, that's great data. That's like legit. They probably wouldn't be lying about that, right? Whoops. I don't know why that didn't take. Yeah, so it's good stuff. Non-accredited investors? No, none, I'm sure. I'm sure these were all accredited investors, right? Let me see. Yeah, see? Check if sold to not qualify as accredited investors. So they're saying here that they were accredited investors. 154 of them they found. There were no non-accredited investors. And then I just do a click here, and what I get is this is how much each person contributed, which is cool. So anyway, so sorry about that detour. I tried to stay under 4 minutes. I think I did. And or maybe I didn't. Maybe I came up to 5. But there you go. So that's how you would do this. And we built that out so that you could actually have any number of these. And it's good stuff because what do? You do a search in your database of all the ones that have filed. And you can even build, these filings, these compliant actions. You can build charts around the compliant actions, to see just how much the offerings were and things like that. So it's pretty cool. All right, back. I'm so sorry. Back, everybody, to DML. We're coming down to the end here. I didn't want to go over an hour for everybody's piece of, ability to relax on a Saturday. But anyway, so yeah. So this, here's their website, GitHub. People have complained a little bit about the lack of information or things going on in the GitHub, but actually, look, it's already improved since I did the podcast. Here's the marketplace prototype up on GitHub. That wasn't there, as you can see, less than 4 days ago. So look, right here, this is proof that we've got, people doing work here. We've got 84 commits. We've got 4 branches. I mean, this is what I would call a relatively active GitHub. There are people. It says Chicky Chan, which is probably Jackie Chan. You saw that person that we saw. It's sort of like this is what we're doing, and it's somewhat visible. So I know people have complained a little bit about the lack of, but the fact that the marketplace prototype, was there 4 days ago, it's pretty good. The white paper, I'm going to say that this white paper was pretty good. It really was. This white paper was 58 pages long, but not just the length. Basically what it is, it's well written. There aren't really any errors in it. It's, the concepts are pretty detailed, and it's organized well. So you can see how it's sort of organized in this hierarchical fashion, and it's fairly well illustrated. So you can see here that this is the sort of a comprehensive flow chart. And it does, sort of make sense, and it does show how there's these nodes. There's these report nodes, there's federated nodes, there's distributing nodes. And let's just look at that for a second. So basically, here's the device, right? And you got all this stuff, like you've got, it could be a computer or a tablet or a smartphone, mostly going to be a smartphone probably, the way people behave these days. But you've got the app that runs with idle processing power, supposedly in the middle of the night maybe, and it works against all this information. So it receives the encrypted algorithm from they're using IPFS for the actual storing of reports and algorithms, not for the data. Remember, the data doesn't leave the device. The encrypted algorithm is delivered here, and then the encrypted algorithm runs on the device with the local data, and then it generates the results, and the results are encrypted. Now, in their white paper, they talk about homomorphic encryption. Homomorphic encryption is encrypting in a way that it makes it impossible to, number one, reverse engineer. And also, it basically, it's extremely slow is the bottom line if you go look it up. And it's really out of reach right now for people to use. But they're saying that they're going to use it as a way of protecting this information in a sort of a hyper encrypted way. And I just think that it remains to be seen as to whether or not what kind of performance they're going to get, because you've already got just a cell phone, you've got data. You know, cell phones can hold a lot of data, and you've got this algorithm. I mean, you know, you need some processing power to run some of these complicated algorithms on lots of data. So it's going to be interesting when you add a layer of special type of encryption, homomorphic. I just have to wonder, you know. Again, you know, the listeners of this podcast, please weigh in if you have expertise in this beyond which I do, which is probably just about everybody. But anyway, then of course there's the smart contract. The smart contract sits in between everything, and allows, I should say, this algorithm to take place. Allows the platform to support all the individuals. There's the marketplace. There's the algorithms that get sold and bought. There's sort of a validation layer. You know, the developer is one of the marketplace participants, and that's all done through the smart contract. There's the customer who goes to find an algorithm, and they go get the list. I logged into the marketplace. I saw a couple of algorithms there. It wasn't quite the same interface as the demos that I saw. This group has given some demos, and they've shown a marketplace that looks pretty slick, actually. Here's the algorithm refining technical workflow. So with this one, you've got this trainer, and this is something that's really interesting, and I think it should be mentioned. I'm sorry to go a little bit over the time, guys, but so the algorithm can be trained in this the machine learning algorithm in this project has the ability to be trained by the end user. So you actually, the person has this choice when they're using the platform of getting rewarded more if they train the algorithm. So that means if they actually go in there and say, which picture is a dog? How many dogs are in the picture? Which one's a tree? Which one's a car? So, and then that's sending, so they do that, and then they send the improved version, right, up to the federated node. And then that goes to the refining node, and it takes all the results of that training, and it applies it to that algorithm. And then, of course, what they don't have here is, okay, do they? I guess they don't. So what they should have is basically payment going from the smart contract back over to reward this person over here who is the device owner. Okay, so that's basically the way it's supposed to work. It's pretty cool. All right, it's the Dml platform. And, you know, again, I just like this white paper because they are pretty, they're definitely pretty, oh, here they have it, sorry. So here it is right here. So here's the developer, and here's the customer, and here's the refinement, and the data owner, and now they're getting from running algo by their data and from tuning. So this is the payment coming back to the data owner. And it says, due to gas usage, data owner can only claim the reward if an amount is met. Of course, because so what'll happen is they'll keep trading, and it'll build up, and then it'll say claim your reward when it's more than the gas, which is good. In fact, hopefully they'll have the ability to wait and do one transaction less often, right? So they don't get killed by little gas fees on the Ethereum platform, as we know this is on. So again, big white paper, well thought out, well done, well organized. Got to give it kudos. In fact, I'm pretty sure in the analysis I mentioned that. Yeah, see, readable, detailed, and error-free. So that's my, I don't have time right now, but I just feel like it's very well written, detailed, comprehensive. Here's a finding below, but this is an interesting, there is a finding below, but this is just a note. And it's basically saying that there's some articles that were written about the forecasting from, big companies like Tactica and Forrester, research companies. And so what I'm looking at conservatively is about $11 billion as a market cap for machine learning, predictive market. Just the narrow thing that this is supposed to do for the next few years. So that way I could say, here's $11 billion for the vertical market cap. And here's the potential penetration. So let's just say, and maybe this is a little bit, maybe we give them too much of the benefit of the doubt, but let's say that they do everything they say they're going to do in that white paper in the next couple of years. And it is true that it's an 11 billion market cap. And they somehow get, because it's revolutionary, it's blockchain, and there's just a ton of people using this, because they're actually getting rewarded financially for running these algorithms. And there's a marketplace and everything. And they get 10% of that. Okay. So that's $11 million, right? That's about what they earned. It's interesting. And I promise you, I did not back that out. I mean, that just is it's kind of ironic in a way. It's basically, $11 million, I guess. And if they get 1/10 of 1%, and I'm sorry, I said 10%. I apologize. I meant 1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1%. All right, not 10%. Sorry. 1/10 of 1%. Okay? So that's $11 million, 1/10 of 1%. And, that's, maybe I'm not giving them much benefit of the doubt. Maybe they should get a little bit more than that. Maybe there's going to be 0.2 of 1%. Maybe there's going to be 0.5 of 1%. Maybe there's going to be 1%. If it was 1%, right, it would be quite a bit more than 11. It'd be 10 times that. So, all right. So anyway, we got news, and I guess it's coming. People are dropping out, so I think I'm going to call it in a few minutes here. Basically, July 5th, there was an update that 2 new developers were hired. That's shortly after their token sale. My only criticism here would be that they should have hired more. They got a couple, but if they made $10 million, they probably should have hired 8 or 9 or 10. And if you go to the, see if I can go back to that project. Sorry. If you go to the Telegram channel, you're going to see, you're actually going to see some people sort of complaining. Let's see. So yeah, this is sort of only one time per month, some medium post of 50 words. So they're just talking about the communications here. And, they're asking about communications. And the community managers are coming in. And they're actually replying, oh, look at that. But anyway, so the thing is we're now in the process of app development and laid out our detailed upcoming milestones. Refer to our latest update below. Duly received your message. They're definitely doing better. You know, and it says here, check Michael's Instagram. He's having a good time. We all wait in progress about project. Only one time per month. Medium will save us. I don't know what he's being a little bit sarcastic. I guess he's saying go to Michael Kwok's Instagram, which is the owner. He's having a great time. I'm sure they're all working hard, you know. I mean, that's the way I see it. I mean, you can dive in. You can really go in here and you can really see, you know, what's going on in here. And there's just plenty of places for you to go. And the most important thing is that you get something like this and you have it all in one place. I should probably show you the talk book. Last thing I'll do. All right, guys. Thanks for staying, the last few of you. Real quick, this is a public token address. And what this does is this allows you to just find an address that's related to this project. It might be this one here is the contribution address. And you can just look at what the deal is with that contribution address, and you can see the transactions. You can see the activity on it. It's kind of cool. See? It's stuff happening, you know, when it happened and what's going on, what the balance is, and stuff like that. So anyway, that's a public token address. All right, everybody. Well, listen, I want to say thanks again. Thank you so much for everybody for coming. And all I can say is we'll see you next week, and I'm going to continue to do this as long as people show up. So thanks a lot, and have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.